All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen and lady. Let's get things started tonight. I'm tempted to almost go to a quote made by Donald Trump, but let's begin this conversation here in Lagos, where Dr. Jide Johnson joins us. Dr. Jide, let's begin with you. Just before the elections, we had a chat on this program, and you had made projections and predictions that Donald Trump was going to win. He eventually did not win. Are you of the school of thought that believe that the elections were rigged, just as Donald Trump?
Elections are meant to be won and to be lost. In 2016, a lot of pundits made prediction that Donald Trump would lose the election. He had 5% chance of winning the election. He won the election in 2015, and the election was contested even up till last year. So basically, when it comes to election, it's the outcome of the election. It's the electorate that determines the outcome of the election. Pundits can only come up with their own projections as regards what the outcome of the election would be, but ultimately it lies with the electorate to decide who wins the election. So the American electorate has taken a decision as regards who they want to be their president for the next 4 years. So it has nothing to do.
All right, Dr. Jide, it appears like
projections, but the outcome of.
All right, Dr. Jide, I'm tempted to make reference to the People's Magazine of 1998, where President Donald Trump was quoted as saying, "If I were to run, I would run as a Republican. There are the dumbest group of voters in the country that believe anything on Fox News. I could lie and they would still eat it up. I bet my numbers would be terrific." Do you think that is probably the reason why we saw the attacks and siege on Capitol on Wednesday?
Well, what happened on Wednesday is nothing new, so it's not news. This election opened our eyes to a lot of things that happened in the United States of America. For the very first time, 17 Attorney General of 17 states approached the Supreme Court to challenge the outcome of the elections. We've seen the outcome of the elections being challenged. Prior to what happened on Wednesday, the House of Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, was attacked. The House of Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, was attacked. So the tension has been building up prior to what happened on Wednesday, and if the security agencies in America and if the other institutions have done what they need to do, the likely outcome of what we saw on Wednesday shouldn't have happened. To those that is new to, it becomes news. To some of us that is not new to, it is not news, because if you look at the build-up towards Wednesday, we shouldn't be surprised that we eventually saw what really happened concerning that. And like typical politicians, for the very first time, that the political class, the elites, were affected directly by the protests and actions of some certain group that are dissatisfied with what is happening in the society. There was an outrage. Now, we all watched throughout summer when businesses of people were threatened. There was no outrage from the House of Reps. There was no outrage from the Senate. We saw how in Kenosha, in Oakland, in Portland, in Oregon, in Atlanta, where lives and property were lost as a result of the Black Lives Movement, which I share some value of the movement. There was no outrage. But for the very first time, when the livelihood of the political class was threatened, we saw the outrage. So for some of us, it's nothing new, because this has been building up over time. And so
yes, Dr. Johnson, we will come to that in terms of why the security agencies in the US did not pay attention to some of the warnings. I'm also going to come to you on the fact that if Donald Trump should take responsibility for what played out on Wednesday. Well, let's take this conversation now to Texas, where Somto Ochuku is standing by. Somto, how would you respond to some of the thoughts of Dr. Jide Johnson here in Lagos, Nigeria? He says that this is not new in the history of America. Now, I remember that something like this played out, I think, in 1814, according to history, but I'm not too sure now. But Somto, how would you respond to the events of Wednesday?
Yes, the events on Wednesday were very terrible. An attack on public servants should never happen. Professor, I kind of do not agree with you about it not being news. It is news in the sense that the handling of the situation was not up to par. Let's call it what it is. If it were people of color, if there were black people protesting, there would be bodies right now. I would be crying on the street. I would be in shock. So the handling of the situation is what is news. It's not that we're not shocked that a bunch of Trumpists and the MAGA situation came to the Capitol. I'm not shocked about it. We the pundits have been saying this forever. We've been talking about, the threats they've been posting on Parler. I actually went on Parler in February. I've been on Parler since February. I've seen all the threats, all the talk, everything they've been posting. Even people who were verified also post this information that are false. So yes, the buildup has been there, but I disagree with the fact that it's not news. It is news to people. This is the United States of America. Things like this should never happen, honestly. So yes, it was news. It was very shocking because it was like, what, 2 to 3 hours of the Capitol was under siege. The United States Capitol. That has happened since the English attacked the Capitol. And to make matters worse, why it's really bad is because people brought the Confederate flag to the Capitol. The Confederate flag hasn't been on the Capitol ever. So yes, it is news. It's a big deal. It's very terrible. We need to talk about it. Exactly. We're not shocked. People of color are not shocked. I wasn't shocked. I just stood there watching it. I was like, this is the result of the falsehoods and the lies they've been telling them all summer, But it's still news. It's something we really need to talk about.
All right, Somto, let's stay with you for a moment. Since you're in the U.S., I'm just wondering how the security agencies, the best in the world missed the signs. It appears the signs were there, the signs of these attacks and the warnings. How come they were ignored?
Okay, so it's complicated. So this is, I'm from my own personal analysis of the situation. So in the summer, there was a stark difference between the way they responded with the Black Lives Matter versus the way they responded with the MAGA terrorists. So in the Black Lives Matter movement, there were the people, military personnel, agencies on the ground at the Capitol, guarding the Capitol. I still don't understand how there were no agencies on ground up until later on when they came in. I know that the mayor of DC, Mayor Bowser, did ask for the National Guard to come in, and many of the conservative people were talking about, why is she doing that? Why did she do that for Black Lives Matter? She was being prepared. She knew what was going to happen. She did ask for the National Guard. She did the best she could, but she didn't even get a response up until the siege happened. And then the people from Virginia, the governor sent assistance from Virginia, Maryland, DC Metro Police, and then the Capitol Police increased presence, and then they came to the Capitol. So yes, it was. Someone has to answer for that. Someone on the top level of affairs. Someone has to answer for that. I think they assumed that, given the fact that the vice president was there, the speaker, given the fact that technically the government was on the Capitol, nothing like that would happen. That's what I'm thinking. They all thought it's never gonna happen. They all thought it was just talk. That's the way I see it. Because if not, Vice President Pence was there. That's what's crazy. Also, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris was also present. So I'm shocked. I'm actually really angry about the situation, because now I worry what's going to happen to all the other public servants. What's going to happen to when people get elected? Because guess what? I could have been at the Capitol because I took a state job. I could have been at the Capitol in DC, but I took a state job. That's why I'm in Texas. So it is scary. It is very scary for us right now. Those of us who are very big into politics. But yeah, it is someone has to answer for it. They're looking into investigating the Secret Service, the Capitol Police, and people in the different agencies. The FBI has actually made a lot of arrests. I'm very
all right, Somto. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sumto, just a moment, because I understand that Joseph Oko is also joins us live now from Dublin, Ireland. Joseph, thank you so much for agreeing to speak with Galaxy TV. Just before we take a breather on the conversation, gentlemen and lady, Joseph, in Ireland now, how would you respond to Wednesday's attacks on the capital? And then, of course, just how much damage do you think has been done to America's democracy, Joseph?
Yeah, it was really shocking to see what's happened in America. I mean, America, you know, everyone knows how organized they are. Some things like this usually don't happen. In fact, it's even a benchmark to other democracies in the world. But people should have expected this really, because Trump has been showing to the world that he's not a man of peace. He's been riling violence amongst his supporters. He pushed this, and I think Americans who have been, you know, keeping quiet for so long, they kind of deserve this, because so many people who should have been calling Trump out, especially the Republican members who should have been telling Trump that some of the things he's been doing are not, you know, democratic. They kept quiet all the while. And now that the whole thing has gotten to this extent, I think there's a reason why we're beginning to see some Republicans who've supported Trump. They've been his loyalists for so long. They are beginning to think twice about some of the things, the actions Trump has been doing in the last couple of years. So on hearing the news about the invasion, I was, you know, disappointed but not really surprised, because of all the rhetorics Trump has, you know, been involving himself with in the past couple of years. And I think now that you know, we've seen lives being lost, now that the whole situation has escalated to this extent, I think legal process needs to be taken beyond the impeachment plots that are making the waves right now.
All right, Joseph, when we come back after the break, let's take a breather. When we come back, we will explore the legal angle to all of this, and if President Donald Trump should be made to pay. As we understand, about 160 House of Representatives, Democrats to be precise, are already planning to introduce articles of impeachment on Monday. We'll find out how all of this is going to play out in the coming 24 hours. But that's in a moment, guys. This is Firecrackers. We are back in just a moment. Join us again.
Election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Firecrackers, and we're live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria, as we consider events of Wednesday in the U.S., where it appears that there was a very, very serious attack and siege. Let's get some perspective, of course, from our guests here in Lagos. We have Dr. Jide Johnson, the former Deputy Provost of the NIJ in Dublin, Ireland. We have Joseph Oko standing by as well to speak with us, a freelance journalist. And of course, in Texas, in the U.S., Sumto Ejiofor, IK Ejiofor, is also standing by to speak with us, an international affairs analyst. Gentlemen and lady, let's get to the conversation as we begin to wind down on this particular topic. Let's begin here in Lagos, Dr. Jide, where you are. As it stands right now, Twitter has finally suspended Mr. Trump permanently. So as it stands right now, he's been suspended from Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Is President Trump on isolation?
And say that they've done the right thing, like most people have said. But no matter how, the beauty of democracy is that majority will have their way, the minority will have their say. Any form of censorship against free speech should be condemned in its totality. And then don't forget, until noon, January 20th, Donald Trump is still the president of the United States of America. Now, if that could be done to Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, what could be done to you and I tomorrow, what could be done to you and I tomorrow by this social media company concerning stifling free speech? As far as I am concerned, you might disagree. Yeah, any form of censorship, as a journalist, any form of censorship, I'm totally against it. Depending on the way you are framing it to be. Anybody can wake up tomorrow and say, okay, we are going to censor this particular group of people. The beauty of democracy is this: let the majority have their way and the minority will have their say. So I'm totally against any form of censorship. And like I said, he's still the president until noon, January 20th, 2021. So that's my view concerning
all right.
Twitter, Facebook, and the rest of it, being that censorship. Somebody can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, let me just tie it up. And wake up, you know what, Galaxy, because of what you have done, we are censoring you, we are taking you off the air. Taking away somebody's voice, like taking life out of it. It is not everything that we see. You are telling people that they can't take decision for themselves. You and I know that quite all right that whatever anybody says, you should be able to separate the truth from. People can take informed decision themselves. It should not be left in the hand of one private company or one individual to determine what must be had by the populace. That's my view.
All right, Dr. Jide,
I disagree.
I actually disagree with Jide as well.
Thank you very much. Okay,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm going to begin with the fact that I'm a big Twitter head, okay? I live on Twitter, to start with. First of all, no one is censoring Donald Trump. Professor, you know better than to say that. First of all, there are 4 official government accounts. There is POTUS, FLOTUS, VP, and Second Lady. If the President of the United States wants to talk to us, citizens, he has the press room. He has 4 other government accounts. What was suspended was Donald Trump's personal account. There are laws for this. You're not supposed to use your personal account for government business. When I do run for office, Somto is going to have a personal account and an official government account. The presidency of Nigeria has their own accounts. President Buhari also has his personal account. The problem is that Donald Trump merged that and started using personal account for official business. I applaud Cousin Jack in every way what he did. What Donald Trump did incited a siege on the Capitol. What are we talking about here? That's not censorship. First of all, if you guys want to keep saying let's remove Donald Trump, let's actually do that. Did you know that Facebook removed Milo? Milo used to incite violence. Actually, there was a huge protest and violence when he went to California, University of California. They had to remove
what has Facebook done to Ayatollah? What has Facebook done to the Chinese Communist Party? What has Facebook done to that? So basically, if the rules should be applied accordingly. If you want to apply the rule should be applied accordingly. Are you getting my point? The rule should be applied accordingly.
Dr. Jide and Somto, just a moment, just a moment, guys. Yes, Joseph, let's say your views on Trump's suspension from Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah. Like I said before, I disagree with the professor. There's a difference between free speech and when you begin to incite violence. First of all, we actually have to understand that Twitter, for example, is a private business, yeah? And these people run their business in such a way according to certain rules and certain standards. Donald Trump was once, not twice, not thrice. He's been warned. Many of the messages he put up on Twitter, they've all been flagged. So he was, actually violating the rules of these means of engagement, and that's why they took his account down, and deservedly so. So when people say we're trying to impede free speech by taking people off Twitter or social media accounts. It's not right, because you have to subscribe to certain laws and certain standards of whatever social media accounts you belong to, and it's in no way impeding the First Amendment, which many Americans, are talking about, because the First Amendment.
Joseph, can I ask you a question? How did the media evolve over time? The media itself.
Gentlemen
how did it evolve over time?
Gentlemen and lady, just a moment. That leads me to my next question. Dr. Jide, let's begin with you. Should Donald Trump be held responsible for what played out in Capitol Hill on Wednesday?
Well, there's no way you can about every politician. If you do a content analysis, every politician, every, from Nigeria to America, if you do an analysis of it, when they appeal to their voters, you might call it campaign rhetoric. It's but incitement. Every political class engaged in one form of incitement or the other.
No,
that's
Professor.
that's the
right.
Every politician use rhetorics that in content analysis you could analyze to be an incitement. Every political class, you could do a study on that. However, talking about the issue that happened on Wednesday, I've said it's a failure of a system. Every system benefits from negative feedback, from negentropy. Now, Sumter said something. The Vice President of the United States of America was in the Capitol. The Vice President-elect was there. The Senate Majority Leader was there. All the senators were there. Where is FBI? Where is CIA? How come that the whole of America was in that building and that building was penetrated? There are questions to be asked beyond the rhetorics of Donald Trump, which I do not approve of. Beyond the rhetorics, which I do not approve of, how come was the Capitol breached? How? That I've not been able to wrap around my head, because I can't imagine the Vice President of Nigeria and the Senate President of Nigeria and the President-elect of Nigeria being in one building, and that building will be breached by civilians. Is it
Dr. Jide, just a moment, guys. Just a moment, Joseph. Just a moment. My question, Dr. Jide, I would want to take this back to you. Should Donald Trump be held responsible for the event that played out on Wednesday? Dr. Jide, just a moment with you.
Should he be read?
Should he be
held responsible? We have a typical example in Nigeria. In 2015, Jonathan was demonized as regards what is playing out in America has already played out in Nigeria in 2015. Played out in 2015 election. So there's what is called history to repeat itself syndrome in history. So what is playing out is nothing new. Did Donald Trump go to the building? He gave a speech, no doubt about that. All right. Then he came out and he asked people to go back home, and they said they are going to impeach him. And people are talking about the insurrection. It's about framing. He's still the President of the United States of America till 12 noon. Can you carry out an insurrection against your own government?
Thank you so much, Dr. Jide.
It's not about media framing and the way the media frame the issue, and everybody takes the narrative from there, and we keep talking about it. Insurrection.
Thank you so much. Let's take this conversation now to Dublin. Joseph, should Donald Trump be held responsible for the actions on Wednesday, especially now that the Democrats are striving to ensure that he's impeached for the second time? Joseph?
Absolutely. Donald Trump should be held responsible for what happened. He's a man of power. He's the President of the United States. And every word the President says has power. You saw what he was saying a few hours to when the event happened, when he was addressing the crowd. And he has also mentioned in the past that his people are going to march on his behalf to the Capitol to cause chaos. And that's exactly what happened. So if the president can say that and that happens, you definitely will have to connect the statement and the action. So I believe that Donald Trump should have been cautious in his utterances. I also believe that some of the police officers in the Capitol that day should be held culpable, because I believe that the United States, they have this sophisticated system wherein people can't just impede or kind of get into such a secure building, one of the most secure in America. So I think investigations should be launched, apart from the obvious, which is Donald Trump's utterances. Another investigation that should be launched is to what extent the police officers around, were culpable in this issue we're talking about.
All right, Somto, should Mr. Trump be penalized? Should he be held responsible? I understand that the death toll of COVID-19 in the U.S. hit about 370,119 just yesterday. And of course, we saw large crowds in their numbers at the Capitol on Wednesday. A chunk of them without face masks or adhering to the COVID guidelines and all of that. Should Mr. Trump be held responsible? Should he be impeached? And the other part of the question is, do you think that the Democrats can see this through in the next 10 days?
Okay, so should Donald Trump be held responsible? Yes, yes, and yes. I can name 5 people who should also be responsible. Ted Cruz, Hawley, Louis Graham, many Texas representatives that have signed on to this. Should he be impeached? Yes, he should. And he should be barred from ever holding federal publicly elected office ever again. One, that would save the Republicans a lot of time, energy, and political capital. Also, the next answer to your question, should he be held responsible for if people have COVID-related deaths? COVID is not Donald Trump's fault, right? But the way he handled it is his fault. Like Joseph said, what a president says has power. Let's be honest.
All right.
That's why when Obama said something, he made sure he said something great. He made sure he said he led very well, because he knows whatever he had to say has power. Now, back to what the professor was saying about campaign rhetoric. Professor. You know better than to say that. That was not campaign rhetoric. That was a call to arms.
Just a moment.
For instance,
just a moment, Somto. I've been told that this Zoom meeting expires in the next 3 minutes or less. So, what are your final thoughts, and what lessons can Nigeria, a country that turns 61 or 62 this year, 2021, learn from what played out on Wednesday? In 30 seconds, please.
Yes, please do not use false information when you're campaigning. Use accurate information. That's one thing. Secondly, when you're listening to people campaign, make sure the person has good policies so that when you vote for them, you vote for a good person. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Somto. Joseph in Dublin, what lessons can Nigeria learn from the events that played out on Wednesday? In 30 seconds, please, or less.
Yeah, if you're in position of power, you should be accountable in your words, in your actions. Do not incite violence, because definitely people are watching, and people can actually actualize certain things you say that you feel do not hold any weight. So it's good to be careful being in a position of power. Remember that you're also in a position of influence, and it can go either way, good or bad.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for us then, Dublin. And then Dr. Jide here in Lagos. What are your final or concluding thoughts on this and the lessons Nigeria can learn?
Just read Shakespeare's Julius Caesar and Macbeth, and then you know politics is about game of interest. What happened in America will still happen somewhere in the world, and 200 years from now, the same thing will still repeat itself. Politicians are the same, whether they are in America or in Nigeria. Democracy is the battle for survival among political parties and people with political interest. They don't care about us, they don't care about their interest.
Dr. Jide,
they try to sort themselves out.
Dr. Jide Johnson, live from Lagos, Nigeria. I would like to thank you, former Deputy Provost of the Nigerian Institute of Journalists. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program. Also live joining us from Dublin, Ireland, a freelance journalist, Joseph Oko. Thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight. And of course, from Texas in the US, an international affairs analyst, Somto Ochukwu Ike Jofo. I'd like to thank you most kindly for your thoughts and your views.
Thank you so much. No worries. Thank you for having me.